The biggest reason that so many people are unhappy is because they're holding on to the past. In today's episode of Be a Better Lawyer, I want to talk to you about letting go so you can let in something new. Hello, how are you doing today? So, today we're going to be talking about letting go so that you can let something in that is even more amazing than what you have right now. And today is when you're listening to this as it's coming out in the US, it is Thanksgiving, and it is traditionally the day where everyone goes around and they give thanks for what they've received throughout the year. What we don't recognize when we are being grateful for all that we have received are all of the things that we needed to let go of in order for us to create that new reality for ourselves. So, if you have a beautiful relationship right now with someone new in your life, you had to let go of an old relationship in the past. You maybe had to let go of some stories in order to let that new relationship in. And if you are struggling in some area of your life, it's likely because you are holding on to something that is not serving you and you need to move forward. So today I want to talk to you about this and really break it down for you because that's really the way that we begin to evolve is letting go of more of the stuff, the junk in our life, the struggles in our life, releasing those so that we can let in those beautiful things, those wonderful things that so many of us desire. Before I jump in, I want to make sure that you download my free workbook. It's called Three Sneaky Problems Stealing Your Time and Productivity and How to Fix Them Now. It was really important to me to create a workbook that actually helped you get results immediately when you used it. You can download it at dinacataldo.com/ timepiece, PEACE. I highly encourage you to do it now because I'm going to be taking it down when I am in full blown enrollment for Timepiece for Lawyers, which is happening on December 3rd. If you're listening to this as it's coming out, December 3rd, 2024. And we're enrolling for the January class of 2025. So now is the time. Download this guide, get results now, and then come and join me in Timepiece. I'm going to be sharing all of the details to everybody who signs up for this workbook, everybody who's on my email list. You'll see it on social media, but you want to make sure you're on my email list because you are going to get exclusive access to so much of what I am going to be talking about when it comes to Timepiece. And there's three problems that I'm talking about in this workbook that all have to do with our relationships and how we deal with them. And we're dealing with that in Timepiece for Lawyers too. Like so many of the lawyers who come in there are struggling with these issues. And I wanted to give you something tangible so that you could now have access to the solutions. And we simply can't be as productive or as effective in our law practice as we would like to be when we're struggling with these relationships. We make our life so hard. In fact, we're going to be talking about that in this episode of things that we need to release so that we can bring the good stuff in. And in this workbook, I'm talking about so many things that you can be releasing right now. You can be letting go of right now. So you're not struggling so much. Things aren't so hard. And especially during this time when you've got holidays coming up and things going on with families, you want to make sure that you are handling these matters right now so that you can enjoy the holidays, so that you can enjoy your time. So what I've done in this free workbook, it really helps you by guiding you through questions to help you release the struggles in these three areas of your life. And this is my free gift that is leading into that Timepiece for Lawyers enrollment. And you can download it at dinacataldo.com/timepiece. And those three relationships, just so you know what they are, they're your relationship with time, your relationship with yourself, and your relationship with other people. Because until you get those relationships cleaned up, you will be struggling. Like you just will be. So that's why I wanted to give you this guide is to help you clean those up right now. All right, so let's talk about letting go to let in. This topic really has been coming up for me a lot in different areas of my life. And one of them that I see coming up again and again with lawyers that I work with is letting go of past failures, letting go of not being perfect, letting go of doing something in the past, like, for instance, not doing what you said you would do, or snapping at somebody, or, anything that you have done in the past, and you tell yourself, oh my gosh, I shouldn't have done that, or I should have been better, or all of those things. Those things that we hold on to from the past are the biggest piece stealers, right? When you do this, like, watch what you do. Like, if you notice yourself holding on to the past where you didn't do what you said you were going to do, or you didn't, for instance, this is how I see it come up a lot, is when they say they're going to do their calendar, when a lawyer says that they're going to get something done on their calendar, when a lawyer says they're going to try something new in their practice, and then they come back the next week and they tell me, oh my gosh, I didn't do it. I'm horrible, right? What do you do? What do you do when you notice yourself doing something like that? What I see a lot of is a lot of beating themselves up, telling themselves that they're a failure and that they can't do it. And that holding on to the past is creating so much pain in the present that it blocks them from bringing in anything new that is positive. They can never actually create a calendar as long as they're beating themselves up about how last week went. They're never going to be able to manage their time as long as they're telling themselves they should have been better the week before. That's what I'm talking about when I mean letting go so that you can let in. You've got to constantly be letting go. Now, one of the arguments I get with this is, and I can, hear some of you saying this to yourself, is, but if I let it go, I'm letting myself off the hook. What does that even mean? Letting yourself off the hook. Hook for what? Why does there need to be a hook? To punish yourself? To tell yourself you're not good enough? To beat yourself up? To shame yourself into doing better? And I used to do that a lot. And I see other lawyers doing that. And so I know I was definitely not alone, and you're not alone if you're doing that. So this hook, this imaginary hook that we have out there, is the way that we shame ourselves, and we keep ourselves in the past, and we keep ourselves locked into these old habits, and we can't bring anything new in. Because if you're constantly focusing on the past, you cannot create a new present, you cannot create a new future. If you're constantly focusing on how you didn't do something, you can't focus on how you will do something. If you're constantly focusing on how bad you were, quote unquote, as if you're a bad child or something, then you can't look at how to evaluate so you can improve yourself the next week. That was a big learning curve for me because I had never been taught the skill of evaluation. That is something that I teach all the students in Timepiece for Lawyers, is how to evaluate. Because when you learn the skill of evaluation, it's a tool that helps you let go so you can let in, helps you release all the things that happened last week so you can then build on and make your next week better. But if you're staying in the dirt of the, like that grime, of all the junk that you're thinking about yourself and how horrible it was, what happened last week, you can't even get yourself into the mode of evaluating, right? So there's a specific process that I walk my students through that helps them gain the confidence to keep moving forward and to let go of the past and keep building on their successes over and over and over again. But if you keep focusing on the past, you can't create a new future. So that's something I want to share with you when it comes to time management. I want to ask you, where do you see this coming up for yourself in your life right now? Where are you holding on to something and it's preventing you from having something better? It's preventing you from having a life that you want. So, in the context of time management, when I see lawyers do this, it's preventing them from having a life where they feel more in control of their time, where they're spending time with their family and they're totally present and focused. It prevents them from doing things and discovering new things about themselves, like going and figuring out what hobbies it is like, right? Like I just discovered something that I really enjoy. I got a coloring book, an adult coloring book. It's, fantasy and beautiful. And I discovered how much I enjoy working with the colors. And that's not something that I would have ever done in the height of the overwhelm that I felt as a criminal prosecutor. It's only something that, I discovered other things when I started calming that overwhelm. But now I'm in this new phase where I'm looking for new hobbies, new things that I enjoy. And I can only do that because I control my time. I can only do that because I know that I feel really confident about how I use my time and how I'll get things completed. But if I'm not letting go of what I've done in the past or didn't do in the past, then I can't move forward and make new decisions. And there's so much drama that comes up in my mind, so much rumination that I can't make space for what's next for me. Another place where I see this come up a lot, where they're not letting go so that they can let in something amazing, are relationships, right? How many relationships do we hold on to, whether it's an old friend that you spend time with, maybe it's starting to feel like it's out of obligation, but you've grown out of that relationship, or maybe it was a dating relationship and you just kind of got in this rut and you hadn't really thought about how you could move forward because you're so stuck in where things are that you can't, or you're stuck in the past of the way things used to be and how you think they should be, that you can't move forward. What is it that you're noticing in your life that you need to let go of so that you can let in something else? Because if you're devoting time to relationships you no longer want, then you can't have space in your life to create new relationships that you do want. If you're holding on to old past resentments and anger, then you can't make space for a clean start with either that's in that same relationship or with yourself moving forward. If you can't forgive yourself for whatever you may have done in the past, then you can't move forward and come from a place of pure compassion and love in that same area of your life, because your brain and your thoughts are all stuck thinking about the old, and that's going to block your whole life. It's like putting up a brick wall between you and the life you could have. You could have a life where your relationships are vibrant and you enjoy spending time with all of the people in your life, and you make decisions around those people you don't want to spend time with because you've let go of those old relationships. You can have a life where you're spending time purely doing the things that you enjoy doing, or you decide you want to do because the person you love enjoys doing them and you want to spend time with them, but you're stuck spending time doing things you don't enjoy. You could have a life where you're not just spending time at the office and mired in paperwork, and instead starting to design a life intentionally where you can spend your time the way you want to and stop thinking about work after hours. And that might sound like a stretch for you right now, that last one, because I know so many of the lawyers I talk to, they come to me just with hope that something can be different, and it absolutely can. But you've got to let go of the past, your past habits, your past beliefs about yourself, the ways that you have done things in the past. You got to let them go in order to give yourself the opportunity to have a new future. And if you're holding on to, well, it's never worked before, or I've never done it before, or, this sounds hard and all those things, that's the past. That's the past. What is important is for you to say, yes, I see you. I see what's going on. I see that I am stuck in these old patterns, whether it's relationships or time management or, anything like that. And because I'm stuck in the past of how things were or how I used to do things or how I'm judging myself for the way I've done things in the past, I'm preventing myself from taking a step forward to create the life that I want, the relationships that I want, the way I manage my time the way that I want. That's the first thing to do, is just to recognize that that's a block. and that's preventing you from learning what you need to learn. The next thing to do is to really sit down and ask yourself some questions. So, I help my clients in Timepiece do this, but for just to kind of come up with some generic questions for you, whether it's you're dealing with time management or you're dealing with relationships, you're noticing things in the past that you're beating yourself up for, that you haven't forgiven yourself for, whatever that is that you're holding on to. I want to ask you, what is holding on to the past preventing you from having? What is holding on to the past, your past way of doing things, your past way of thinking about things, your past way of behaving? What is that preventing you from having? It's preventing you from having something. What is it? So that's the first question that I will offer to you. The next question is, if I had what it is I wished I had, whether you believe you can have it or not, that's a whole nother question. I totally get that. If you listen to last week's episode, actually, I talk about believing and really believing, it's believing harder in what it is that you want, because so many of us don't allow ourselves to even believe anything's possible because we've told ourselves for so long, right? This is the going back to the past. We've told ourselves for so long that it's just not possible or I can't do it. And that prevents us from moving forward. So, this is where the second question comes in. If you did have what you wanted, and define what that is, okay? So let me take a step back. Define what it is you want, the kind of relationship you want with a person, the kind of relationship you want with yourself, the kind of relationship you want with time, with your office, the kind of relationship you have with your business. Define exactly what that is. How much time do you want to spend at the office? How much time do you want to spend with your partner? What kinds of things do you want to do with your partner? What kinds of um, activities do you see yourself doing with a friend, a loved one? What kind of business do you want to run in terms of how much profit margin you have, how much you market, like who your ideal client is? I want you to really spend some time on this, like this, I don't know, it's 10, 15 minutes on this. Really think about, well, what do I want? And it might take you 5 minutes just to get into the idea of being able to have something. So allow yourself that moment to think and be with yourself. Most of us never take that time. So I want to offer to you that you take that time for yourself and you ask yourself what you want. And then ask yourself, if I had this, if I had this, I want you to put yourself in the position of having that. Maybe it's more time after office to spend with your kids, whatever it is. Then when I have that, how do I think I will feel? Will you feel lighter? Will you feel more accomplished? Will you feel proud of yourself? Will you feel, I don't know, peace? Right? Those are the kinds of feelings that when we step forward and allow in what is possible for us, we can experience. But as long as we're holding on to the past, like we're, kind of gripping it and we're afraid to let go of it because it's all that we've known, then we can't experience a new future. And I was there for a really long time. I had a really difficult time even envisioning a future where I wasn't a criminal prosecutor, where I wasn't working 70 hours a week. I just couldn't imagine it. And when I allowed myself to do this exercise that I'm sharing with you, it was really eye-opening. I discovered that there were things that I wanted that I wasn't allowing myself to want because I was so stuck in the past thinking that that's just the way that it was. Last week, the way I experienced last week, that's the only way I can experience my weeks. There's no other way to experience my week. And that's so common with the lawyers that I work with. And if you're feeling overwhelmed right now, which most lawyers do, right? If you're listening to this, you've got a lot on your plate. You're working, who knows how many hours you're working each week. You're maybe rushing around back-to-back meetings. You're taking care of family commitments. You're having the additional festivities happening in this time of year. You have emergencies that come up. All of those things I help you work through in Timepiece for Lawyers. And we work through what your weeks look like, and then how can we transform them? How can we address the things that came up the week before and let in something new, allow for something new? So we're not ignoring what happened the week before. We're not ignoring the past, but we're using the past and informing the future. So if you know last week felt horrible because said yes to a zillion clients when you really wanted to say no, you discounted your rates on a zillion clients when you knew that that was not going to be something you wanted long term. Had an argument with an opposing counsel, you had an argument with your partner at home, right? Like if you noticed last week didn't go the way you wanted to, we take a look at these things and then we intentionally design the next week and we make improvements each week. Week after week, you make improvement. And that's how life is. We look at what's happened in the past just to inform how we want to be in the future, but we don't look and judge ourselves in the past. Because if we stay in that judgment and if we tell ourselves we should have been better and you're just a horrible person for behaving that way, that is not useful. It's not useful. And it prevents you from doing the real work, which is of changing yourself and taking responsibility for changing yourself into the person you want to be, into creating the life that you want to have versus the life that you have been looking at and saying, I don't like this, I should be better. So I want you to take this to heart because these were lessons that I needed to learn. And they're not the easiest lessons. I hear you. If you're listening to this and you're like, oh my gosh, this is a little heavy. It got a little heavy. I want you to know that this is where the biggest progress is when we start to look at these areas of our life and we start to say, where am I holding on to the things that aren't serving me? And what are they preventing me from having? What do I want in my life? And what am I prepared to do to get it, to go after it? Because it's not just going to happen. What am I prepared to do about it? So I want to offer you those questions and I want to wrap up just by saying, I know you can do this work. I know that you wouldn't be here right now if you didn't want a better life for yourself. You didn't want to have a more fulfilling practice. You didn't want to have a better relationship with yourself and the people around you. Like you would not be here unless you wanted those things. And my wish for you is that you are able to let go of all that is not serving you in this year and move into 2025 with so much space to allow in those things that do serve you, those relationships that serve you, because you deserve everything that you want. The first step is getting clear on what that is. All right, my friend. Thank you so much for listening. I want to remind you to download that guide, 3 Sneaky Problems, Stealing Your Time and Productivity and How to Fix Them Now. You can go to dinacataldo.com/timepiece, PEAC, to get that. And when you're there, you're also going to be getting on the interest list for Timepiece for Lawyers. So you're going to be the first to know when Timepiece is open for enrollment. To give you some outline of the dates, it's going to be open for enrollment on December 3rd. I'm closing enrollment on December 13th. We're going to have our first timepiece class on January 7th. So you have lots of time to enjoy the holidays, but you're also going to have access to all of the library that is inside of Timepiece for Lawyers already. So that means you have all the trainings when it comes to time management. If you want to binge those, I've got some amazing bonuses in there if you want to start binging those. Whenever I join a program, that's the first thing that I do is I see what's in the library and I just start binging. And I'm going to give you some directions so that you can just see what is available and where you can start to really see some progress. And there's also all the replays from the last session. So you get to have all of those in there as well. All right, my friend, go to dinacataldo.com/timepiece, PEAC, and I will talk to you next week. Bye.